Okay, welcome everybody to today's date is May 26th, 2016. And we're here in sunny Las Vegas. Is this Henderson or Las Vegas? Okay, Las Vegas, Southern Nevada Regional Housing Youth One-Stop Affiliate. And we're going to talk about the future. So, who was born here and their whole life they knew about cell phones? Were cell phones around your whole life?
Well, I mean, yeah, but not like we have now.
My
dad used to have, this.
Okay. So I got my first cell phone in 1986. And it was in a briefcase. And it was $1,000 a month. But well, I mean, that would be like $5,000, $3,000 a month now. But for business, it was very important because before that, people had what?
Pagers.
Yeah, they had pagers. And it was very frustrating because if you got a call, what did you have to do?
Go to the payphone.
Exactly, you had to go to a payphone. And that was a real pain in the ass. So to save $1,000 a month, instead of having to stop driving, go do this, people could justify, yeah, that's worth $1,000 a month and I have to do that. So, did everybody here grow up in a world where you've always known about email?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, did anybody have this thing of, oh, email, is anybody going to send me an email? That's how it used to be. Back in the mid-'80s, it was, I got my first email account, I think, in '87, maybe 85 to '87. And it was like, well, no, I don't know anybody else that has an email. What do I need an email account for? How about websites? So everybody grew up in a world of knowing about websites all the time? Okay. So before, there weren't websites. So, Catherine,
yes.
You mentioned how phones have changed, right? And you ever notice anybody walking around or doing like what CJ does? Most of the time they're just buried in this. You ever notice anybody doing that?
Yeah.
How often?
All the time.
All the time. People, it's amazing to me how much time or how many people that are out there are just on their cell phones, their smartphones. How many people do you think were on smartphones in 2006, 10 years ago?
Well, there wasn't really.
0.0.
Yeah.
The iPhone came out in 2007.
Yeah.
So nobody in the whole world walked around doing this, checking an email.
I used to have a Motorola, the one it was like not a flip phone, it was just like this. Yeah.
Texting?
Yeah, but it was it was T9. I don't know if everybody knows what T9 is, but you have to push the button to get to the letter.
Yeah, 3 times or whatever.
Yeah.
So those got wiped out in 10 years. It wasn't even 10 years, because how long did it take to get your first smartphone? Did you have a cell phone before a smartphone?
My first phone was in '09, and it was over.
Okay, so that was that a smartphone?
Nah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a church phone before I had that smartphone.
Okay, so let me go back and say this way. So the iPhone came out in 2007. And by 2009, if you could get a smartphone, you did. 2 years. It just changed. And now, I don't know, can you even get a non-smartphone now?
Yeah, you can, but it's pointless to do.
Because all you can do is make calls?
Yeah, well, like even just like with the iPhones, the iPhone 5S, which is the one that was, it's like a little bit back there, you can't get the update. You can get the updates, but the phone doesn't work the same as the updates for the new phone. So it's like you can use it, but it's pointless.
So it's obsolete.
Yeah.
Okay. So phones continue to change a lot. But 10 years ago, there were no smartphones. 10 years ago, if you wanted to find out how to get someplace, how did you do that?
Like a TomTom.
TomTom, that was very few
Or you
people.
printed out Google search, Google Maps.
Okay, or what else?
You used a map.
Yeah, those things called maps. What do those look like?
This big old
Huge paper.
And you had to fold them up a certain way, and nobody could ever fold them back.
Yeah.
Okay, where did you get those? Gas stations, right? And then if your living was a delivery guide, you'd have this book called the Thomas Guide. That was, for taxi drivers or delivery people, it was a book and you flip through and you gotta go to this page or that page. Or with AAA, if you wanted to go on a trip, you go to AAA and they say, where are you going? And they would create something called a triptych, which was about this long. It was spiral bound at the top, and you'd flip. And as you would drive across country or wherever you were going, you would just flip page after page, and it would show you how to get there. Obsolete. Now, the problem is we don't really know how to get around if we don't have a phone, right?
I think they went over my phone.
Oh, how?
I can't. I'm from a
What if I
different.
say
Lost
get to
on these
750 Lake Mead?
I know where Lake Mead is. I can look at the street numbers.
Well, how would you get there?
How do I get to Lake Mead?
Yeah.
Get on the freeway.
You saying if you didn't know
And
where
then
you
what?
was at?
But then what?
Let me see. I can get on the freeway, get off that Rancho, drive it down to Lake Mead, and then let's see which way is 700, and then I take my chances.
Okay.
I'm actually good with
Okay,
streets.
so how would you get to Bob Miller Middle School?
Google.
There is no Google.
Give me an address.
2487 Citrus Garden Circle.
Okay, now that's not that one.
You gotta give me cross streets or.
Yeah, like give me cross streets.
If it's in
Okay, well, it's a falling rock.
Yeah,
Falling
I'm
Rock
not even
and
from
Citrus.
here, so I don't know how to
Well,
get
the
anywhere.
point is,
We ain't going.
we don't know anymore because we use our smartphone.
Yeah.
Before there were smartphones, people had a way to find out. We don't do that anymore. Nobody knows. It's just like if you go to a restaurant or some store and the cash register is broken,
No
what
one
do they not know how to do?
knows. Add and subtract.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, that's correct. So the point is the world is changing. And we have a tendency to not think forward to be what it's going to be like in the future. We think back. And in my life, when I was, say, less than 10, there were no area codes. There were no zip codes. There were no seat belts. There was no cable TV.
Sounds like my dad's age.
How was your dad?
57.
So he's younger than me. Okay, there was none of that. No microwave ovens.
He used to sit in this car seat.
That's a Jesus.
He used to sit in this car seat that looked like a little, like a baby-sized lawn chair type of thing. Like, and he just sat in it, and then he sat in the middle of this car that didn't really have back seats, but it had no seatbelts.
Yeah.
And the radio was like this dial push thing.
Right. Okay, so in those days, if an airplane would go across the sky, people would say, hey, look, there's an airplane. Because it was rare. What would we do today? What would we have to see today for somebody to say, hey, look, there's a what?
Or a drone.
A drone. Because those are rare. If there's a drone flying by, people say, hey, there's a drone. If somebody says, hey, there's an airplane landing.
People are gonna look at it like, okay.
Or they're going to be like, well, is there something special about it? Because I can see 5 airplanes at any time landing. So things have changed a lot. We tend to look backward and say, boy, things have changed. The amount of change that's going to happen now has dwarfed what has happened in my life. And in my life, again, no zip codes, no area codes. My first phone number when I was growing up was Victor 65110. That's how phone numbers work. You had a word, so VI on a phone is 8465110. But then it was just Victor 65110. What's your number? Victor 65110. What's your number? Sally Mae, you know, whatever the number was, that's how it was.
Wow.
And it changed. And when cable TV came out, there was like 3 stations. Before that, everybody had these big antennas on their houses, where I lived in California, Northern California. No satellite, no nothing. All of those changes are nothing compared to what's going to happen in the next 10 years. So there's 3 big things that we're going to talk about. And we're going to focus on what do you need to do for your life. Because if you just go get a job today, because you need a job, and you happen to get into a job that's not going to exist in the future, what's going to happen when that job disappears?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So what's the story I used to tell, I think that you heard, CJ, about in the year 2000, how was 100% of beer delivered to bars? Not 2000, year 1900.
In a barrel type of?
How was it delivered?
No, horse and buggy.
A horse-drawn wagon.
Yeah.
Okay, buggy is what people rode around.
Oh, okay. So.
It would be like a car.
Okay.
Okay. So they didn't really deliver beer in cars. Okay, they delivered them in wagons, like trucks. And so all beer, 1900, 100% of the beer in any bar in the whole world was delivered by a horse-drawn wagon, unless the beer place had a restaurant. But delivery was all by horse-drawn wagon. So who was important at that company?
The person that drove.
Okay, a person who drove the horse, the driver. Who
The
else?
person that made the beer.
Well, in that company. So the distributor's not in that company. But in that company that delivers beer in horse-drawn wagons, who's important? So the driver, who would you say? Who's another person that's important? It's really simple. Think simple, don't
The
think
owner.
complicated. Well, the owner's always important, but how about the guy who feeds the horses?
Oh, true.
How about the guy who shovels the horse?
Manure.
Correct. How about that? Is he important in that company?
Yeah.
Okay. How about the guy who just graduated and got his license, or just graduated from engine repair school?
Yeah.
Why is he important?
Because in the next few years, and
The horse, why is he important in that company?
oh, he's not yet.
He's not important.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a job. If he goes and says, hey, I just got my license, I'm a mechanic,
But not yet. He's not important yet.
he has no value,
Yet.
right? All of the people that have to do with the horse are important, because what if the horses don't feel good?
Oh, that.
They don't work, right? What happens if you don't have horses pulling these wagons? People can't pull them. They're not going to go get oxen or cows. So they have to have a lot of horses, because horses, sort of like people, have good days, bad days. They get sick, they need vacation, whatever. And so you had to have a lot of horses. So the guys who were very important in that company were the people who took care of the horses. But what happened the day after the owner says, you know what, we should buy a truck? A guy came in here, a salesman came in here, and he told me we could deliver a lot more beer, and it's going to be a lot cheaper to deliver beer in a truck than having the horses, the food for the horses, the cleaning up after the horses, the taking care of the horses, the guys driving the horses, the supervisors, because we have a lot more people, because each wagon can only hold a certain amount of beer, where a truck can hold 3 times as amount of beer, and it can do 2 trips in a day. And so the salesman came in here, and I think I'm going to buy a truck, and our competitor, they bought a truck. So now the guy walks in and says, I just graduated from, I'm a mechanic. I just got out of school yesterday. I don't have any experience. Is he important?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's important, because everything changed. Who's not important?
The horse.
The horse people. they're not important. You know, what happens when the company gets rid of the last horse? Who goes with it?
Horse people.
Horse people go with it. If you can't adapt, but you know, it's hard to learn to be a mechanic or to drive a car if yesterday you're driving the wagon. Is it different driving a car than a wagon?
Way different.
Way different. So somebody shows up and says, I just learned how to drive a truck. When they have a truck, is he an important guy? The guy who says, well, I've been driving a horse and buggy or a horse-drawn wagon for 15 years. Is he important when you have a truck?
No.
Can he even drive the truck?
No.
He can't. Where's he going to learn to drive the truck? Because he was yesterday, he was driving the horse. He didn't have time to go to school to learn how to drive a truck, right? So that's what the future is. In fact, here's the number. 50% of the jobs that are going to exist 20 years from now do not exist today. You can't get this job today. Half of the jobs that are going to exist. So is anybody here 20? Okay. How old are you?
19.
Okay. So by the time you're half of the jobs that are going to exist when you're 40 don't exist today. You can't get the job. It's like the guy who's driving the horse, and they don't even have any trucks. There's no trucks. He can't even imagine, I need to go to school to learn how to drive this other thing because horses aren't going to be around. He can't even think about that. But in a few years, he doesn't have a job. And he's back out on the street, right? Because there's no more jobs for people who drive horses. So that's what's happening. That's what's going to happen. So don't say, oh, that's 20 years from now. Because it's not like everything's going to be fine and then one day it's going to be gone. Because with the horse-drawn wagons, it wasn't like today everybody had horse-drawn wagons and tomorrow morning nobody had horse-drawn wagons. It took a few years. But as guys were losing their jobs, what could they do? They didn't have money to go to school to learn to drive a car and things like that. They might have had to have a different career. So now is the time. Now is when you have the opportunity to get on track to do something else. And you know, the pitch I'm going to make to what is that? Well, that is SNAP. What's SNAP? All right. So SNAP, I know Devin knows what SNAP is.
Fund that stone point, no debt in 9 months?
Yeah. SNAP is the idea of the guy who started what?
Chuck E. Cheese and Atari.
Chuck E. Cheese and Atari. The guy who started Chuck E. Cheese and
And
started
Brainwash.
Atari and Brainwash. He's been here twice. Did you ever see him when he was here?
First time.
Okay. So CJ saw him the first time. He's been here twice talking about the future. And when he came up with Pong, first video game, Pong, you guys probably don't know about that. Maybe you've seen it on TV. Pong is just a little ping pong type thing, tennis. He invented that, and then he started a company called Atari. And what he did is he changed the world. Because once you had Pong, then he had the Atari 2600, which was for inside the house, and it had cartridges. And now everything has changed because of that. It's not that nobody would have done it. Somebody else would have done it. It's just that he's the guy who did it. So he changed everything. And so that was what changed life. And on his Wikipedia page, it says he's listed in Newsweek's thing as one of the 50 people who changed America the most. Okay. Then he did it again with Chuck E. Cheese. And what is Chuck E. Cheese?
Place for kids, like a
Family entertainment.
arcade, yeah.
Okay. And what was it going to be called originally?
Oh.
Originally, it wasn't going to be called. Were you here when he talked about that?
Yeah, I forgot what he said.
Okay. So it wasn't originally Chuck E. Cheese. The name was going to be called Coyote Jack's Pizza. And he bought, because they're going to do robots, like at Chuck E. Cheese they have the robots. So they had the robots, but he was at a trade show. Nolan was at a trade show, and people were walking around in costumes. So he said, what, Keith? I'll buy a costume and put the robot inside of it. And that's how we'll do it at Chuck E. Cheese. We'll just buy a costume for a human, we'll build a robot to do it, and we'll do it. So he saw a Coyote costume and he bought it. And he sent it back to Atari. And a few days later he called and said, did you get the Coyote costume? And they said, no, what Coyote costume? He said, well, the Coyote costume I sent you. And they said, no, that's not a coyote. He said, it's not. What do you mean it's not a coyote? What is it? They said, it's a rat. You bought a rat costume. And he said, well, why do you think it's a rat? He said, well, it has a long pink tail. Of course it's a rat. So he said, okay, so we'll call it Rick Rat's Pizza.
Yes.
And the people at Atari in the marketing department said, you can't have rat in the name of a restaurant. You can't do that. And he said, well, what about Mickey Mouse? And they said, well, mice are cute. Rats are not cute. So he said, well, I'm not going to go buy another costume. So think of a name. So he said they came back with a 3-smile name. So you can't say Chuck E. Cheese without smiling. Your face being a smile 3 times, Chuck E. Cheese.
Right.
So that's where Chuck E. Cheese came from. And, you know, it's an interesting story. But the thing about it is that usually your first plan doesn't work. And instead of saying, oh, okay, well, let's go find a coyote costume. Well, I don't like that coyote costume. How about this other coyote costume? He kept focused on what?
His rat.
Well, he did keep focused on the rat because he bought it, but his real focus was the family entertainment store. It was like, that's not the most important thing. That's just the costume. And Chuck E. Cheese, the logo is a rat, and it also kind of looks like Nolan. So if you see Nolan Bushnell, he looks sort of like Chuck E. Cheese. But he's tall, right? He's a tall guy, beard. So Snap is Nolan's third thing to change life as we know it. So Atari changed life as we know it. Chuck E. Cheese changed life as we know it. Every place we go, anybody ever hear of Chuck E. Cheese? Everybody's heard of Chuck E. Cheese. And now the third thing is Snap. And what Snap is going to change is education. And the fundamental thing is this. College is too expensive, it takes too long, and people don't end up doing what their degree is anyway. The problem is, when you start going to school in kindergarten, 100% of your teachers went where?
College.
To college. So are they really going to be predisposed to say college isn't necessary? No, they're drinking the Kool-Aid. So they're not going to say that. And, you know, maybe you, but when I grew up, the thing was you need to go to college. And I did. I went to a good school, and I also went to law school. I have a law degree also. So, but now Nolan is saying it's not like that. College is not like it was 30 years ago. It's way too expensive. Takes way too long, and only 10% of the people end up actually doing, if you take out teachers and engineers, if you take those group of college graduates out, only 10% of everyone else ends up doing what their degree says. So CCSD, Clark County School District, has a statistic. So 100% of people start high school. And they proudly say, this percentage graduate. What's the percentage that graduate?
High school? 60%.
Okay, now they proudly say 70% of people that start high school, graduate high school. And then they say, and this percent, we're really proud to tell you that this percent started college.
10.
No, they're proud to say it.
Oh, proud to say. Oh.
55%. Okay. Now, most people think, oh, 55%. They're thinking it's 55% of 100%. It's really 55% to 70%. What's 50% of 70%? What's half of 70%? 35. Okay, 30. So this is really like 35% of people who start high school start college. And then they say after 6 years, let me do it this way. Graduate. So they say, well, okay, you want to know the number of people that graduate in 4 years? Okay, well, you know, it's hard to graduate in 4 years. 14%. 6 years, it's 39%. 39% of the people that start college graduate within 6 years. And that's basically it stops at that, because if you don't graduate in 6 years, you're not going to graduate.
So you just stay in school forever?
No, you just drop out, because it's too hard. Life catches up with you. You get married, you have this, you have your job, whatever happens. Okay, so what is the number really? If we say, well, of the 100% that start high school, what percentage actually finish college? So how do we do that now? See, if I didn't have this, I couldn't do it. So 70% times 0.55, right? So 55% of them. And then if I say times 39% equals 15%. 15% of the people who start high school graduate from college. And these people end up owing about $100,000 for have spent $100,000.
My mom still owes like $94,000, and she's been out of college since 1989, I think.
Okay. So Nolan calls this indentured servitude. What's that, CJ? It's indentured servitude.
You're more debt than you're making.
No. So back in the 1800s, in the 19th century, if you were somebody in Europe that had an education, but you didn't have money to come here, somebody would say, okay, well, I'll pay for you to come over here, but you have to work for me for 5 years. And I just have to give you room and board, and I have to pay you. That's called indentured servitude. Somebody says, I'll pay for you to blah, blah, and you have to work for a certain number of years to pay them back. And then once you did, once you worked for that person for 5 years, now you were free to go do whatever you want. Most of those people, though, they're just living for room and board. They couldn't ever get ahead, so they end up working for those people forever.
Where they put themselves in more debt than they'll ever really be able to pay back.
Well, it's not that they necessarily put themselves in more debt, because they were getting room and board. So, hey, we need a school teacher here. You're in England. You want to come over to Nebraska. We'll be a school teacher. We'll pay for you. You just have to work here for room and board for 5 years. Okay, so you come over, you work for room and board, the 5 years is up, you don't have any money to go buy a house, right? Because they gave you a house. You don't have any money for food because they were feeding you. They weren't paying you to be a teacher because you owed them money. So now you kind of say, well, you know, this wasn't really that bad. I didn't have to worry. A lot of guys go back to prison on that basis because it's easy. You don't have to worry about paying your bills. So Nolan's point with SNAP is, this is really crazy. This is a bad story to believe. That when I start high school, I'm going to high school because I really should go to college. Only 15% of the people get out. And of those, 90% owe about $100,000. Then what if you want to go to graduate school? I went to law school.
For the interest.
Huh? What?
So with the interest on that would be probably triple.
Yeah. So I went to law school, and that's a lot. And when I went, and I graduated in the 1990s, it was cheap. It was only $1,000 a month. So I was able to pay from my job and go. So when I graduated after 4 years, I paid about $50,000 to go to law school, to have a law degree. Now it's at least double that. So if you owe 100, you probably owe 300,000. So it's not a.
I worked there for a year, nothing different.
See how that works? See what's ringing over there?
You have a quick message or something that says I'm in class right now?
Yeah, exactly. It says, literally, it says I'm in class. So, is this a good plan?
Nah.
Okay, so what is your plan?
My plan is, because I guess I'll give you guys a short, long story. My plan is to finish my high school diploma, because I didn't. And then I'm gonna go to school while I'm being a dental assistant. I'm gonna go to school to be a dental hygienist.
Okay.
And then hopefully I can be a dentist one day. Only thing that discourages me is my age, I guess.
Okay, so here's the thing about that. So if anybody's going into STEM, what's STEM?
Technology, engineering, math.
Right, so anything like that, then you kind of don't have a choice. You have to go through the system because you need to get a license. Okay, so you don't really have a choice, and we do need medical professionals. Okay, so you get a pass. What's your plan?
Probably project management.
What is your educational plan?
Get rid of those certifications.
Okay. What about you?
My plan really is to just finish high school
Okay.
and try to go to college and do business and management.
Okay. So that's not a good plan based on this, right? How old are you? 19? Okay. What year are you in high school? Or would you be?
19, he would have been out.
Right. How much longer do you have? Let's say it that way.
Probably to the end of this month, really.
You're ready to graduate?
Nope.
Okay. So how much more do you need to graduate?
Oh, I only need 4 credits.
Okay. So how long is that? Because I don't know how these credits work.
It's about a year. That's a year. Well, regular high school though, it's different when you're trying to get it outside high school. That's a year's worth of credits.
Okay. What is your plan?
Well, I just finished medical assistant, so I'm certified in phlebotomy. And then-
Blood. Okay. And go work it. What's the big lab here?
LabCorp? No, oh, Quest?
Quest. Yeah. Go work there.
No,
Why not?
most medical offices would like to have their own phlebotomist in office, so I would probably make more being someone's phlebotomist in office.
Okay, okay. So again, that's a medical type of thing. Not medical, not medical, not medical. So college is not a good plan. The problem is everybody's against you. If you say, I'm not going to go to college, I don't need college. Now, Nolan Bushnell says, I've got 8 kids, 4 of them went to college and 4 of them didn't. The ones that didn't go to college are just as successful as the ones who did, except the ones who did, it cost me a lot more money to send them to college, and they're a lot better off. So Nolan came up with the idea of SNAP. And SNAP is 9 months. 9 months. And you learn what you need to learn to be successful at a job. Not to be in medical field, but it's a job. So you have 20 hours a week in class.
But does it also teach you entrepreneurship?
20 hours a week studying. You have a job, 30 hours a week, that's paid, $10 an hour. That's 70 hours a week times 39 weeks, but 40 weeks would be 2,800, so 2,770. So 2,770 hours. How much time when you're in college, if you're going to UNLV, how much time is spent in college?
Way more than that.
No. In 9 months, in 1 year?
Oh, no.
Yeah. The reason people can't get through college in 4 years is because they can only take how many hours of class a week?
15 is normal. Or
Okay.
15 credits.
Is that 15 hours in class?
I guess technically it could be more or less. So it depends on the class. Yeah.
Okay. You might not even go to class.
Right.
And say you're doing it at home.
Right.
Online. Yeah. So this is 20 hours in class, 20 hours not in class, 30 hours is 70, 2,700 hours. And it's to learn to be an entrepreneur. So what do you learn? Remember anything? Okay. So you learn about the future, which we're going to talk about. You learn about technology. You learn about media. So media is things like YouTube, TV, cable. It's, getting messages from here to there type of thing. You learn marketing, funding, HR, hiring and firing, building teams. You learn business law, and you learn accounting. Now you're probably thinking, this is too hard, right? What do you think, too hard? Business law, accounting? It's not really hard.
Better than paying somebody to do it.
Well, it is better than paying, but it's not really that hard, because let's say, Keith, somebody said, I need you to draft a contract. Let's say you 3 people are working on a team. And Nolan has a video, and the video says, okay, I need you to go to the trade show this week. The trade show is about tea, the kind of tea that you drink. It's the international tea convention is here in Las Vegas at the trade show. We've got tickets for you. You go to the trade show. We need you to find a company that you want to buy tea from, and we need you to create a contract. You 3 guys are on one team. And so you said, we got to create a contract. How do you create a contract? What would you do? How do you solve that problem?
What do you mean, like literally?
Yeah.
How, like, do an invoice on, like, what it is that you're buying, how much and all that, and then write up, who's involved in it, and
Okay.
then, is this what you mean, or something else?
Okay, so that's one way to do it.
Okay.
What's another way?
And just to build on top of that, would you have to proof it and make sure it's all lawful?
Yeah, it needs to look like a legal contract.
Exactly.
So what would you do? So you have an idea, we write it up on a piece of paper. What do you say? You agree with that? Is that what you do? So, hey guys, let's sit around, what can you think of? What should we put in this contract?
No, I mean, you gather the information from I guess, the situation too. I mean,
Yeah, well, you went to the trade show. You guys are
Yeah.
sitting around, you gotta create a contract. So how do you do
Get
that?
person to sign it?
Well, you need to create it first.
Oh, yeah.
They're not gonna assign your invisible contract that you
Well,
have written.
the law stuff, we would use that what information we have.
My point is, it's not hard. It looks hard.
Oh, yeah.
Or this is
We
an
do it-
example of why it's not hard. So you guys are in a group, you need to create a contract by T from this company. How do you create the contract? What do you do?
How much tea you're gonna buy?
How do you
Do it.
create the contract? Don't
You
talk
just
about the
create
terms.
it.
Print it, write it.
Okay, but how do you know how do you
It's
know what
something
all
that-
of the things to put in there?
Well, maybe we've seen one before.
Yeah, examples.
Okay. So what's the first thing now you always want to go to get information?
Google.
Right, so you Google. You do a Google search, contract.
Templates or.
Exactly. You go to the internet. So it's not really hard to learn business law if you know how to go about solving the problem. And you work in groups, and the starting point that no one says is, there is no university in the world that's better than you two. Okay? At SNAP, this course is taught by Yale University. So the course in business law is taught at Yale University online through a thing called Coursera. This is taught at University of London. And a lot of the courses in SNAP are taught online.
So he's mixing like the MOOCs with the actual work experience.
Yeah, so this part is doing these moves through Coursera, working in teams to solve problems. Because what is it that entrepreneurs fundamentally do?
Start working,
To do what?
make money,
And how do they make money?
sell the product.
Okay, so you're on the target. So we did this before, right? You're on the target. You're not in the bullseye, but CJ's on the target. What entrepreneurs do is they come up with solutions to people's needs. If you're in South America, selling fruit on the side of the road is a guy who's an entrepreneur. He's solving a problem. He's got a solution to a problem. These people need fruit, they don't have fruit. I'll just stand here all day and I'll sell oranges. That's not a good idea here, but that works in Central America, or coconuts, or whatever it is. So SNAP, the idea is here we learn how to come up with solutions to things people need. And you have to know a little bit about law, because you have to be able to write a contract. You have to know about property. You have to know about money, how to keep track of money. And so you get a QuickBooks certificate out of this. You have to know about hiring people and building teams. You have to know about where do we get money? Where do we get funding for this? And most of the time, you try to get your customers to pay you. Michael Dell, everybody knows Dell Computers. How did Dell Computers start? He said, you want a computer? Give me money. This is when he was in college. Give me money and I'll build you a computer, but you need to pay me in advance. And that's how Dell did it.
That's just like this website called Savion.
Mm-hmm.
And basically you shop like you normally shop. You pay a monthly fee or whatever for them to give you 20% of what you pay out. And the people that you bring on pay your membership. So you keep bringing people on and people keep paying for your membership. And that's how you make money, because every person that you make $20 a day off of that person.
Okay. So that sounds like multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
So, huh?
Sound like computer.
Well,
It is, but you make good money. It came from this lady, she drives a Mercedes, and she's the one that started it. I can't remember her name. But
so SNAP teaches you these things, working in teams. 3 or 4 people learning how to create solutions to people's problems. And if you learn how to do this process, then you never have to worry about somebody paying you, right? Because you can go make money on your own because you know how to go to people and say, hey, how about this? How about that? How about, what about this idea? So one of the things that our school does, the school where I work, is they produce this magazine. This magazine here. This magazine is for Italian American people. This magazine is now the largest circulation Italian American magazine in the country. And it's done by like 3 people and a bunch of students helping. So it says, published monthly by the students of Larson Training Center. So, but here's a simple business. You go to people and say, how would you like a magazine? Go to businesses. So anybody know Pizza Rock?
Yes, that's my favorite place.
Okay, so you go to Pizza Rock and you say, you know what, you have enough customers, you have enough business, you should have a magazine. And here's what I'll do. I'll give you some sample magazines, you choose one, you give me the content, you give me the stories, I will lay it out, and I'll charge you $400. How much do you think it costs to produce a magazine for other people?
Like $5.
No, to produce the magazine. A lot. They have big staffs. They have a lot of people doing a lot of different things. But with the software tools called InDesign, if you know how to use InDesign, you can do this. You say, I'll charge you $400, and I get to have 2 pages in the magazine that you can sell. And let's say you sell them cheap. You sell those 2 pages at $500 each. The ads in here are $1,000 for a full page, but just say you say that. So now you've gotten how much? $1,400, right? Per month. And then you say, and I will go to printers and get you 3 bids. And I'll oversee the printing job. I'll make sure the printing is right. And you go to the printer and say what?
I'll help you.
I'm going to act as your salesperson. I need a 10% commission. To print the magazines, the minimum is $5,000. So you add on $500. So now where are you? You're at $1,900.
Month.
A month. It takes 1 day to lay out the magazine. It takes other parts a few hours while dealing with the printer to get the magazines printed. And so the business model is this. Every year, you just get 1 new customer. Starts out as a part-time business, you're making $1,900 a month. Part-time business. Takes you 1 day to lay out the magazine a month. They have to supply all the content and stories and you lay it out. And I know that's what it is because we do this magazine in 1 day. Spend all day doing it, get it done in 1 day. He said we're going to have 1 new customer a year. So at the end of 10 years, now what does it look like? $19,000 a month. And you've gone out and hired people to do this low-level stuff, and it's a great business. And at this stage, you're not selling these for $500, you're selling them for $1,000 because you can go to a lot of companies and say, I can get you in these 10 magazines. That's just a very simple business that people can start. And all you have to do is have a computer and know InDesign. Where do you learn InDesign? If you can't afford to go to school.
YouTube.
YouTube. And on Adobe. So let's get back to the future though, because I said there's 3 things. So you 3 people for sure should start Snap.
I'll start July.
Okay, so you 3 people should start at Snap.
Could we do SNAP even if we maybe shouldn't?
Well, and nobody should, you have a plan that's STEM. Now, your thing would be dental hygiene, right? So a business you could do that would be very good would be going to high schools, community centers, churches, have a van, RV. You've seen these that are mobile dental places.
Mm-hmm.
That's for teeth cleaning. And you just charge $5. And you do 100 people a day. And you're just doing teeth cleaning, or 50 people a day, $5 each. And then you go get a dentist that will pay you for referrals. Somebody comes in to get their teeth cleaned, they pay you $5. Who's not going to pay $5 to get their teeth cleaned?
Yeah.
Right? And you say, oh, you have a cracked tooth. If you don't take care of this, it's going to be really bad. Smiles Dental here will give you 25% off and they'll finance it. Bring them this piece of paper. Do you think Smiles Dental would do that?
Mm-hmm.
And pay you
Mm-hmm.
$50 for every person that you got?
Mm-hmm.
And you sent 3 people a day?
Yeah.
You're making, how many teeth cleanings could you do in a day?
Probably 100.
Okay, say 100.
Yeah.
So would it be good to make $650 a day?
Mm-hmm.
And then you could hire people to be teeth cleaning people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're paying them $20 an hour. Let's say you're really paying them good money. How much would you make as cleaning teeth?
Anywhere from 10 to 27, I think.
Okay, so you pay them 40
Okay.
because you really want them to do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
How many teeth do they have to clean to get $40 an hour? So 40 times 8 is what? 320. Okay. They're going to do $500. Would it be worth it for you to say, I'll give you $250? And it would be worth it for them, right?
Yeah.
And you have 3 people. Let's say you have 3 people cleaning teeth.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting $250 a day from them.
I'm making good money.
And they're each getting 3 referrals.
Mm-hmm.
So how many referrals is that?
But they don't get the money for the referrals. I
No,
do.
you do.
Yeah.
How much is that? 3 times 3.
Oh, 9.
9 times 50.
Times 50.
Yeah, because you're getting $50 from the dentist.
Yeah, 450.
Okay, so you made $750 plus $450. You've made $1,200 a day, and you're a hero.
And I'm a hero.
People going home and saying, wow, I had the greatest thing today. My life changed. I had this persistent toothache. I didn't know what to do, didn't know a dentist. How much did it cost to start that business?
Oh, start with the whole truck and the van and all that? Oh, I don't know. 15,000?
Okay. How much did it cost to start the idea of the business that we just did?
$0.
$0. If you went to SNAP, you'd be able to actually start that business successfully. If you don't go to SNAP and you just say, what I learned in here, you're excited, but then every day you get less excited because you don't know how to do the licensing and the this and where am I going to get the 15,000 and how do I do this on the truck and all that. At SNAP, this is what you would learn how to do.
I want to do it.
And one of the things on there was funding.
Is it going to be held here or we have to go to a certain place to do
It's
it?
downtown,
Oh, okay.
and you have to live in the dorm. It's room and board and job. It's an immersive thing. See, schools here, people don't know about going away to college. Real schools, if you go to Harvard, you don't get to say, well, I go to school at Harvard, but I go home at night. It doesn't work. I go to Stanford, but really I live at home with my parents. No. You don't go, those people don't go to Stanford. People that go to Stanford are in there, and they're with the other kids that are away from home, that are learning to grow up, that have all of these ideas. They don't go home to their parents where life is crap. You know, the problems of life. They're with these other people who think they can do anything. Okay, so what are the three big things that are going to change the future? Number one, self-driving cars. I read something today that it looks like, yep, Apple's going to have a self-driving car in the next year. They're out looking for, huh?
They already got cars trying to park themselves.
They already have self-driving cars. They're just not legal. Google has cars that are driven 1 million miles. In Europe, they're doing big rig trucks, self-driving. Self-driving cars. One day in the next 10 years, self-driving cars are going to be common, but it's going to be the same thing. It's like when I said I was a kid and an airplane went by, what did everybody do?
Oh, there's an airplane.
Yeah, hey, there's an airplane, everybody. What's going to happen with self-driving cars, for the beginning, is people are going to be driving down the road, they're going to say, holy shit, there's a self-driving car. Look, everyone, self-driving car. And then it's going to be, just like right now, if I said, hey, everybody, let's go outside and see if we can see an airplane. There's an airplane. People are going to say it's too hot to go outside, right? If I said, hey, everybody, there's a self-driving car coming down the street, let's go see it, what would you do? Yeah, we'd go do it. In the future, that's going to be, yeah, so I see them all the time. Google is the most popular that has self-driving cars. Everybody should know that Google has self-driving cars out on the road. And these self-driving cars drive way better than people drive. Way better. Why?
You were programmed to stop.
They don't have the
No, you're doing.
sensors like us.
No.
No.
Why are they better, not worse?
Well, if they're better,
Okay, so one thing is they have like 7 cameras. They're hooked up to GPS satellites. They know what traffic is like up ahead. They can see down the road further than we can see, and they're hooked in and they know what traffic is like. That's one thing.
No distractions.
7 cameras. Yeah, they don't get distracted.
well, that's what I was saying.
Okay, they're not driving, texting, eating a hamburger, and talking to the person next to them like we do when we drive. Anybody here that drives? That's what we do when we drive, simultaneously. Okay? Texting, eating a hamburger, talking to the person next to you. They don't do that. They don't get in wrecks. But the other thing is, because they're computers, they can process things faster. They can do calculations, 100 calculations a second. We do like 4, if we're not distracted. So that means they can drive this far apart. The light turns red, you're the 10th car back. Today, how long does it take before you start moving? Light turns green.
10 seconds.
But it's about a second per car. So if you're the 10th car, you have to wait 10 seconds before you take your foot off the brake. Self-driving cars, what happens? The light turns green, everybody's going.
Yeah.
Because you're this far apart. This thing is able to say, oh, he moved. Shh, we're moving too. But what happens when there's self-driving cars? What are you not going to need to do? Okay, what else? Drive where?
Anywhere.
Well, but how are you going to get to work?
Tell them where you need to go.
You're going to tell your car's going to drive you, right? Okay. Now, here's the fact. I'm not going to go. We don't have time to go through the numbers. But if you drive your car 50 miles a day, you use it less than 2 hours a day. The average car is not used 22 hours a day. The average car. So what is your car doing? It's just in a parking lot somewhere. In the future,
You will need to own one.
in the future, let's say you own a car. What's your car going to do? Somebody smart will have an app, like Uber, but this is an app that they go to nursing homes and say to little old ladies, would you like to have a car come and get you and take you to get your hair done, take you to church, take you to the doctor? It's $20. But if you have 3 people go, it's only $6, $7. You put everybody in the car. If you got a notification saying, we would like to use your car for an hour to drive these women to get their hair done, would you take $10 for that? Can we use your car for $10 for an hour plus gas? Would you say yes?
Yeah. Probably a little bit more though. I'm per mile.
Let's say it was $10. It's for an hour.
So
We're going to drive these little ladies 5 miles to get their hair done.
So when they take your car, are you in it or the car?
No, you're at work.
So I'm saying, so the car is empty?
Self-driving car.
Oh, no.
You don't have to think
I'm
about
ready for that.
keeping maintenance on the car and all that.
They say don't worry about that because your car will go in to get tune-up
By itself.
Yeah.
That's true.
and get gas.
It'll pump the gas by itself?
Well,
What
go
is
to
it,
a
the
gas
car is
station.
empty?
No, there'll be one guy that's just temporary initially, just putting the thing in this car with no person in it. But if you could make $300 a month renting your car out while you're not using it, plus they pay for gas, so it's just an extra. If you could get an extra $300 from your car, would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what a lot of people do? They'd say, well, I want to have a car. I can afford a $300 car. I'm going to sign up for the service. They're going to give me another $300. So I'm going to get a car that costs $500 a month. I'm going to get a much better car than I could afford because they're going to be using it at this time when I'm not using it. Truck, small deliveries. Your car will drive to the gas station. You're not going to have to go to the gas station. Go to the mechanic. It's not going to get in wrecks. There's not going to be insurance adjusters. All of that goes away. Let's talk about drones. These are going to change everything. In the future, when houses are built, they're going to have a Sally door. What's that? What's a Sally door?
Is it like a,
Yeah.
Job door for Trump.
So a Sally door is something that there's a door on this side, and then this is a door also on this side. So this is locked from the inside. So the drone flies up, opens the door, puts your package inside, flies away. You come home, you come inside of your house, and you go to the other side of the door, and you take your package out. All houses are going to be built this way because drones are going to be delivering packages all the time. Huh? You can do mail if you want, but here's how the numbers work out. How much does it cost to send a package by UPS or FedEx?
Like that.
Like
How much it weighs.
Let's say 10. Let's just say 10. Let's say it's $10, and that's overnight. It's really more, but let's just say it's 10. Now, you have a drone. Let's say it's an expensive cargo drone that costs $5,000. Now let's say you're going to put another $5,000 into maintenance into it, parts and junk. So how much is this drone going to cost you? $10,000. That drone is going to last 5 years. So how much is that per year? $2,000. So that's called, you amortize this cost. So the amortized cost is $2,000 a year. Okay, now let's say that you have another $1,600 in miscellaneous. cleaning it, new sensor, something else. So let's say that cost you $3,600 a year for that drone. How much is that a month? Three what? 300, right? 300 times 12 is 3,600. That's $300 a month, right? This drone can work 7 days a week. Doesn't need time off. So let's divide that by 30. How much is that? $10 a day. And it can do 10 deliveries in a day, easy. How much is that? 1. It costs you $1 to deliver a package by a drone. And you know what? You get this thing, oh, we're going to send you your package. Amazon says we're going to see you ordered it today, it's in the warehouse, we're going to get it to you today. Where do you want it? Do you want it delivered to your work, to your house, or where you're going to be in the next hour? Because we have your phone, and we'll deliver it right to you for $3.
Wow.
Would you rather pay $10 and get it tomorrow, delivered to your house, left outside on the door? Or would you rather get a thing that says, okay, the drone is going to be there in 15 minutes? What would you rather?
Really?
Here's a job that doesn't exist today that's going to exist in the future. All construction companies are going to have drones flying around for safety purposes, making sure that the workers have their helmets on, they have all the stuff that they're supposed to do that they don't do because nobody's watching. Drone pilots. I met a guy 2 days ago. I took the card out of my wallet today. But he invented a new game called Drone Golf. How does that work?
You pick the ball up, bring it to you.
No. You fly the drone and you try to drop the ball closest to the hole. But you can't hover. So you can't fly it to the hole, drop. You can't do that. You can't hover. So you can either fly and drop the ball, and what's it going to do? It's going to roll. So if you want the ball to roll, fly, drop the ball, it's going to roll. What if you don't want it to roll? You fly really fast, then you go up and drop it. And what's going to happen? Then it goes straight down, right? Or bounce a little bit. But so that's a new sport that just got invented. There's only 2 companies supposedly in the whole world that do this. You think you could make money at that? Probably. But drone pilots for OSHA, purpose of safety. Guess what? All security companies, all buildings like the Venetian, these big buildings, they're going to have security drones. Because a drone can do in 5 minutes what it takes a guard to do in 30 minutes. And let's say somebody's injured, they're down on the ground, the drone flies in, it lands next to the person and says, what's up? Are you injured? Can you breathe? You having a heart attack? Did you get mugged or you stabbed? And then they give that to the EMTs, right? So you're not waiting 20 minutes for an ambulance to come, and then they get there and say, oh damn, if we knew this was the problem, we would have been here earlier. This is how everything's going to change from drones. But that's not even the biggest change. What's the biggest change, CJ?
Artificial intelligence.
2 weeks ago, there was a Kitty Hawk moment in Las Vegas. What's Kitty Hawk? Kitty Hawk.
Kitty Hawk.
Kitty Hawk. What's the significance of Kitty Hawk?
Kids playing hawk.
Huh? Kids playing hawk?
Yeah, that's why.
Okay. Kitty Hawk is a place, I think it's in North Carolina. That's where the first heavier than air under control flight took place. That's where the first airplane, the Wright brothers, flew from, Kitty Hawk. So a Kitty Hawk moment is, this is a moment where everything changes. So that when they made their first successful flight, the world changed. When Nolan Bushnell put the first video game inside a bar, the world changed.
I think I know what you're talking about. They got that little railroad plane thing.
So 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, they did an experiment of the Hyperloop train.
Is that the one that go to California?
It will. This was just the experiment, first experiment outside.
Is it the one that builds the bridges or the bypasses or whatever?
The
And
train?
it drops the already built.
No.
Oh.
So this thing in the test went from 0 to 116 miles an hour in 1.1 seconds. This train will go 700 miles an hour. And it's called a Hyperloop because it's built inside of a tube and people are in pods that might be about the size of this room. And it's magnetic, and so it just shoots you down into this pod. And this tube. So there's very little friction, there's very little wind resistance, right? But the cool thing is, for the first half of the trip, you're accelerating. Say up to 1 G. What's 1 G? Okay, so 1 G is 1 gravity. So that means when you're accelerating, you feel like you weigh more. Like, you know, you go up in an elevator and you feel, oh, you're getting pushed down. Okay, so 1 G is where your body weight doubles. So instead of weighing 100 pounds, you feel like you weigh 200 pounds. 0 G is what? Weightless, okay? So you might accelerate up to 1 G, half the way. The other half of the way, you're braking. And what happens when you're braking? What's created?
Friction.
Friction. And what is the friction used for?
For us, like, not float, but us to not have weight, like.
Well, what the friction is turned into is energy that does what? Recharges the batteries. So the fuel is going to take very little fuel. So what will happen when the Hyperloop comes out is people will be able to live in San Francisco and work here, or live in Montana and commute 1 hour to here. So what's going to happen in Montana? Is it going to be good for there? Yeah, business, right? Homes, construction. Is it going to be good for here, for people to move out of these crowded neighborhoods? It's going to be good. It's going to change everything because people have to build the tracks. They need to be on the other end where they want people to move to, build that whole thing. They're going to build nice communities because now let's go back to self-driving cars. You're in a self-driving car, you don't need to drive the car. What does it look like? What do you see from the inside of the self-driving car? What does it look like to you?
Probably all luxury, or you don't, because from room.
If you look out the window, what does it look like?
You're floating.
You're in a self-driving car, you're driving down the 15 freeway. But you're probably going 90 miles an hour because
You're
all
that
of these
close.
cars are driving this close together. And there's very little wind resistance, so you're going to get a lot better gas mileage. But what does it look like to you when you're inside that car in the future? It's not really far away.
I mean, the world's gonna look like it doesn't need people.
Now, when you look out the window, what are you going to see? You guys are overthinking, huh?
More scenery.
No. The windows are going to be LEDs, or LCD screens.
Yeah, we're going too fast to see.
They're going to be LCD screens, so you could program them to say, let's pretend we're flying through outer space.
Oh, wow.
And it's 360-degree flying around. You say, let's pretend we're going under the ocean. Hey, let's pretend we're driving in a stagecoach through Wild Wild West. And there's some Indians chasing us.
How soon do you think all this stuff
It
happens?
was within 20 years. Remember how fast it took for the smartphone to take over? That was a couple of years. When these things come out, everybody's going to be writing code. Hey, yeah, I'm going to create this great thing. Let's pretend we're inside of a glacier. Let's pretend we're inside of this. And you're driving in your car, and it's a 360-degree surround environment.
I mean, that create addictions.
Huh?
Addictive.
What do you mean? So, yeah.
So with the Hyperloop, would we need self-driving cars if we get places faster?
Well, yeah, because the tubes are going to be to get you like from here to LA. But then you're going to get in a self-driving car that could be, to your point earlier, might not even need to buy a car. Uber's trying to get people to say, if you drive less than 25,000 miles a year, it costs you more in car payment, maintenance, gas and oil, and insurance. It costs you more than if you just hired an Uber driver. And it's going to keep going down because as there's more self-driving cars, the people who own those cars are going to rent those cars out to people. And so instead of your car being used 2 hours a day, now maybe it's going to be used 12 hours a day.
Putting Uber out of service.
No, because Uber will have the technology. Uber doesn't care if there's a driver or what. Right now, they have to use drivers. What is Uber? Uber's an app.
Yeah, you can't even talk to them on the phone.
Uber's just an app. They don't care if there's somebody driving the car. And the biggest expense, why do you think it costs $10 to ship a package? Because of the driver.
Yeah.
They make like $60,000, $70,000 a year when you add on insurance and the maintenance of the truck and everything else. That guy's going to be obsolete, just like the guys driving the beer trucks, beer wagon. Yeah.
So this Hyperloop, it wouldn't be able to take me from, let's say, Vegas to the East Coast?
Yeah.
So then why need a car? I just jump on that.
Well,
But when you get on the other side,
how are you gonna get to the?
it's not going to
place
take
down
you
the
right to
road?
the house that you want to go to.
I know, but see, here is like desert everywhere, so you need a car. You obviously don't want to walk. But if I get on the Hyperloop and go to the East Coast, there's most likely less subways East Coast.
On the East Coast,
Yeah.
there's no subways on East, well, there is, but only in some parts.
So the Hyperloop on the East Coast will connect all of these major cities to everywhere else.
They already got the trains now. So.
Yeah, but these are 700 miles an hour.
So that wouldn't take
Not
planes
60.
out of business?
Yeah.
So we no longer need planes.
Oh, planes, I thought you said trains. No, well, a lot less. A lot less, because if you're in your Hyperloop pod and you have an hour ride to Montana, what's it going to look like on the inside of your Hyperloop pod?
Oh, they're gonna like the terrorists.
Whatever you want it to look like, because it's going to have these same screens in them. You want to sleep?
I don't know if I'm ready, but it's pretty cool.
Well, you need to get ready, because it's coming. And Snap is the place that really is preparing people to do that.
You said Snap's not for me?
Well,
It's not-
it's not that it's not for you, because we just got Catherine and got her to, so this is Snap, got Catherine to, did I give you one of these? Got Catherine to have a plan on how to be a dental hygienist. I gave you one last week, right?
I have it.
Is this the program where you go and you live?
Mhm.
And he was talking to, Tommy was talking to me about it.
Yeah,
Oh,
so you need to go online, send an email, we'll send you a bit.ly link that has all of the paperwork to fill out.
They pay for it now?
Huh?
That's what they go and they gotta set up something for them to pay for it.
No.
what are the alternatives for your entrepreneurship?
Okay, so there's a question that you have to answer. I can't tell you the question because then you could prepare. But there's a question that you have to answer. Yeah.
So, are you able to give me